And thank you for having me here in particular. I think the first time I met Janelle, she was a little girl and I was her audiologist at the National Acoustic Laboratories in Perth. And here it is a few decades later, so it's always lovely to see her. She hasn't changed at all. She's as big a delight now as she was then. I'm going to talk about audiologists and advocacy across the lifespan of deaf and hearing impaired people. I've been an audiologist for over 35 years, and in that time I'm proud to say that audiologists have been some of the strongest drivers of improvements in services and technologies for deaf and hearing impaired people. This has been in part because of the research they do and the clinical activities they undertake. However, the role of the audiologist extends well beyond that. It goes well past our laboratories and our clinical settings, and it includes advocating for deaf and hearing impaired people. And I'd like to highlight some of the ways we've helped in the past and how we can do so in the future. If you were born with a permanent hearing loss 35 years or more ago, you may not have met an audiologist until you were 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years of age or even more. Your family may have noticed you were not speaking as well as other children the same age, or that you weren't hearing as well in the classroom. And it would be weeks or even months later that you might have had a hearing test and got your first set of hearing aids. It was an American audiologist, Christina Yoshinaga Aitaino, back in the late 90s. And she did a long-term study, and whereas we thought, oh well, the critical age, of speech and language development was a little bit later, she in fact found that you had to have intervention by 6 months of age. So her studies emphasised the importance of early identification and intervention. So if you're an Australian child that's born today, you get to have a hearing test before you even get a chance to go home from the hospital. And it is because of universal newborn hearing screening that we have such wonderful outcomes for our deaf and hearing impaired children. As audiologists, through Christina's work, it was through advocacy for early intervention and identification that we've dramatically improved children's outcomes. So who are we as audiologists? Some of you have met us before, and for those of you that haven't, we're professionals that work in the diagnosis, rehabilitation and prevention of hearing loss. Most audiologists enter the profession because they want to help people. Some of them also have an interest in technology, and a large part of audiologists' lives is working with technology. They complete 5 years of university education, including the Master of Clinical Audiology, and this provides them with the tools and the devices and the skills to practice. But I think what you must always remember is that audiologists can do a lot more than provide you with all that technical knowledge, and they can do so throughout the lifespan. Some of you have met several audiologists in audiology clinics, and you've come across some of the hearing tests we do and the devices that we fit. But what you should always remember is that we can always advocate for you. We can advocate for devices and technology. People go to appointments and they get shown what might and might not benefit, but it might not be enough. And we've heard some of the stories already today where both parents and some of the children who've spoken have said to us, it wasn't good enough, I needed more. And audiologists can help you advocate for those devices. At home, it might be through Bluetooth technology and the connectivity hearing aids now have with all electronic devices. At school, it's with FM systems. For an individual, it might be an individual FM that helps them hear what the teacher is saying. It's always like having the teacher only a few centimetres away from your ears. For some children, particularly children in rural and remote settings, it's everybody in the class that needs a little bit of help, and audiologists can help advocate for classroom amplification systems. Similarly, audiologists are experienced at speaking with and writing to teachers to make sure that the teachers are aware of what a child can and can't hear with and without their devices. At work, as a young adult in the workplace, you may need to approach your audiologist about a specific listening situation where you have difficulties, so the audiologist can really have a look at what you might need in terms of technology. And again, they may speak or write to your employer and highlight the improvements in productivity. Acoustic hearing aids and implants. Sometimes hearing aids are not enough and implants are what you might need. And it's the audiologist that knows the test batteries that are involved and who can put together the evidence to say, I think you might benefit from something different to an acoustic hearing aid. Audiologists advocate for additional services. Devices aren't the only things that we can speak about. They can put together the cases for additional speech therapy where families can have appointments fast-tracked. They can put together cases for ENT and other medical services where families are battling to convince one medical practitioner that additional help is needed. And then there's smartphone technology. It won't be long before all of us will be wearing hearing optimisation devices. Smartphones are getting smarter. Audiologists can now reprogram hearing aids via the telephone. You don't have to come into the office. And there'll be lots of things that we can do for ourselves with our hearing optimisation devices. Audiologists advocate for education and training support. Education after the formal school years at universities and technical colleges generally occurs in bigger and less controlled environments, and Greg spoke about that at the very beginning. And audiologists can advocate for their clients if additional devices or interpreters or note takers are required. And finally, audiologists can advocate for employment and work-related issues. I've had many clients come to me in the past and say, I need to get this job or I need to keep my job. And it's not easy for an employer to understand what someone can and can't hear. And it's quite difficult even to say, because of this hearing loss, this is what you can hear. And it's the audiologist that might do a whole battery of tests to try and demonstrate what you can do in a workplace, what you might have difficulty with, and what will help you, and is that workplace safe for you? So from the moment that you're born and throughout your lifespan, an audiologist can be there to help with information and technology, but they're always there to advocate for you as an individual outside their audiology clinic. Thank you.